for inviting us to join today for like a discussion for the presidential, for the international immigrants. Yeah, so my professional background is in social work back in my home country. And then my question today is pretty much for, because for the presidential to be registration here in BC, we need to like take an exam. But the examination is actually based on a US regulatory body, ASWB. It's not really related to the Canada. I mean, some of the social work practice and knowledge are based, internationally recognized, and they should be the same. But some of the context, like even the law to be tested on the exam is pretty much based on US, like some act that is not really applied to the Canadian context. So I'm kind of questioned about why would that be the case? And one more thing is that only BC in Canada requires exam for the international presidential for the social work registration, but not the other provinces. So I just want to ask, is there any governing body to be regulated for this contest like that?
Great question. Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed your name. Paul. Okay. Thank you so much for coming up, Paul. I really appreciate it. And if there was one profession that we really desperately need right now that I've heard about is social workers, and especially in healthcare environments, working in hospitals, helping people who are being discharged, make sure that they have arrangements in place at home so that they can be successful and not come back to hospital. But also in schools, supporting kids that are struggling, people with mental health and addiction issues. We're really hungry for social workers, and so it's really frustrating for me to hear your experience. We want you to get to work. And if you have language skills, if you have cultural skills that you bring as a new arrival to Canada, this is so important for us because there's so many new arrival communities where you will be the perfect social worker to support them with language and cultural skills as well. So to know that you're tied up in a process that examines you on American law and has an exam where in other provinces there is no exam is really frustrating to me, and I know it's frustrating for everybody here who knows what kind of important work you do in the community. So thank you for sticking with it. We want you to work as a social worker, please stick with it. And we're going to address these issues of unfairness, the arbitrary exams that don't connect with the work that you're actually going to do, the repeated recertification for English that is confirming again that you have the skills necessary to do the job over and over that you have to pay for every time. I'm going to turn over to Andrew if he's got anything specific on social workers. Andrew, I'm sure you've heard about this.
Yeah, and social work in particular, one of the things that we need to make sure when we look at these professions and we look at the licensure process for internationally trained professionals is that we have the voice of internationally trained professionals at the table. So there's someone there speaking for internationally trained professionals at the credential body saying, this doesn't make sense. And because one of the things that really struck me throughout the past year speaking to regulatory bodies is there are certain regulatory bodies, and a lot of them, they have a big role to play in protecting the public and administering the profession, and sometimes the focus isn't on the international credential process. And so that focus needs to be there, and we need to make sure that it is there, and we need to make sure that there's oversight. So we're going to be bringing oversight to the social work profession to make sure that folks like yourself have a voice in the process and that it actually makes sense, and that the barriers that are in place, the tests that are there, are ones that are necessary, not unnecessary. I'll say one thing about language testing. I spoke to one internationally trained professional who told me, look, when I immigrated to Canada, I took a language test. I have a master's degree from the United Kingdom, from the London School of Economics actually, and but he's from Hong Kong, but I took an English test. I have an English education from the UK at a prestigious university. Then I was told every 12 months while you're waiting for your application being assessed, and it took 3 years. He was taking another language test because of time down. He said, look, my English hasn't gotten worse since I've been living here. It's only gotten better. But the message he's receiving is, you don't want me here, you don't want me in this profession. And that is exactly the wrong kind of message to send. And so, I would say I'm heartened that you're sticking with it and that you're pushing through. And I want you to know that we hear you, and we're going to be doing the work on that. Because exactly as the Premier said, we need social workers. We're a diverse province. We need social workers of diverse backgrounds. And we know that leads to better outcomes. But there's some work to do, and we're going to make sure that we're